Muy buenas tardes con todos. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy. Tenemos un webinar muy especial preparados para ustedes con una institución con la cual tenemos un convenio muy interesante. Estamos con EducationUSA y con University of California, San Diego, y vamos a hablar sobre el OPT, cómo se puede trabajar después de culminar sus estudios posgrado. Les recuerdo el convenio que tenemos con esta institución. Tenemos un convenio de apoyo financiero a través de assistantship o fellowship si es que son beneficiarios del programa Crédito Beca. Les recuerdo que el programa Crédito Beca es una convocatoria, una financiación de hasta $50,000 para maestrías en el exterior de tiempo completo. La convocatoria se abre el 10 de enero, cierra el 28 de febrero y los resultados salen el 11 de mayo. Pueden encontrar más información sobre el programa Crédito Beca en colfuturo.org, luego en programas y luego en programa Crédito Beca. Vamos a empezar pronto. Si tienen cualquier pregunta durante el webinar, por favor escríbanlo en el chat. Con mucho gusto tenemos una sección al final para responder a sus preguntas. Hoy estamos con Mary, con Dulce y con Juan David H. y Juan David T. Ellos son estudiantes colombianos que están en esta institución en este momento. Entonces, si tienen preguntas sobre la experiencia de ellos como estudiantes colombianos en el exterior, también con mucho gusto. Dulce, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Mary, and both Juan Davids. We're really excited to have you today. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Dulce.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bianca. And we're so happy to be here to be able to share a little bit about UC San Diego and of course to have our two current students, both Juan Davids, to share a little bit about their experience. I'll go ahead and share my screen now and we'll get started. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so what we wanted to talk about briefly today was just really a couple of considerations that you may want to look at when considering graduate schools in the United States. So here are the list of presenters. So myself, my colleague Mary, and of course our two students, Juan Davids. And then what we're going to cover is what to consider when applying to UC San Diego also, but also universities in the United States. I'm also going to cover working in the United States. And of course, we'll give time for questions and answers with our student panelists. Now, what are some things that are important when considering applying to graduate schools in the United States? Here are the four that we would recommend that you might want to consider. First one, alignment with your academic goals. So for example, asking the following questions, does the program meet your academic and professional goals? Are there faculty members who are doing research in your area of interest? And are there classes offered in your field of study? And what are the degree requirements? These are going to be very important when you're looking for programs in graduate school. The second one is availability of financial support. So again, asking these 5 questions might be helpful. What support is available directly from the university? What support is available from other funding sources? I know that EducationUSA and Colfuturo have a lot of information. So looking at what's available through them may be helpful as well. Is it full or partial funding? And is it funding that will cover your entire program while studying in the United States? What is the duration of support? And what are the requirements of that financial support in order to receive it? The third consideration would be location and campus climate. So of course, as you can see from my background, one of the wonderful things to consider is the location. I'm sure our students will share a little bit about location and how that's played a role in selecting where they went to school. But for example, here are some questions that you might want to ask yourself. Do I see myself living in this location? Is it urban? Is it suburban or a rural location? Does the climate and the living environment suit me? What are my transportation options to and from campus? Can I walk, for example, or do I take public transportation? Is there an on-campus and off-campus housing option? What are the costs of living? And is there a diverse and vibrant international community at that location? The fourth one that we thought might be also important to consider are internship and career advancement opportunities that are related to what the area of or career that you want to pursue. So for example, what internship and career resources and support are available at the university? Is there support for obtaining work authorization in the United States? Are there local companies and organizations in my field of study near the university? So it might be a good idea to see what companies might be located near the university, because then that might be potential options for doing internships while you're studying. And then, of course, what companies have hired students from the university. So all of this information would be available either on their websites or talking with some of the admissions folks that can share information about the university. The other thing that I wanted to share too is just opportunities to work in the United States. So those that apply to universities and to pursue graduate school usually have 3 different options for working in the United States. One would be on-campus employment. So that's working at the university where you're pursuing your degree. In most cases, students can work up to 20 hours part-time during the academic year, and then they can work full-time during the academic break, so usually during the summer, winter, or spring breaks. Another opportunity that students pursue are internships. These are usually done during the fall, winter, spring, or summer quarters. There are 2 types of employment authorization that international students can apply for in the United States, and these are all issued by the university that you would be attending. And these are called curricular practical training, or CPT, or academic training, which is another form of work authorization. The one that probably many of you have heard of in terms of working after graduating from graduate school in the United States is optional practical training, or OPT. And I'll cover these in a bit here. So work authorization in the United States under OPT, or optional practical training, you can work up to 12 months after graduating from your program. So if you're pursuing a master's degree or a doctoral degree or PhD, then you can pursue up to 12 months after graduation. It must be, though, in your field of study. So if you're a biology, pursuing a field of study in biology, then that work has to be in biology. And then students are eligible for OPT after completing different levels. So if you were to complete a bachelor's degree in the United States, then a master's degree in the United States, and then a PhD, you would be eligible for OPT after completing each of those degree levels. Now, for those of you pursuing STEM fields, which would be science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, those students are actually eligible for an additional 24 months of employment authorization after that first initial 12 months. So if you're a STEM major or pursuing a STEM field, you can have up to 3 years of employment authorization in the United States. Now, for OPT, this is recommended by your home university and then authorized by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So for those of you that are considering graduate school in the United States, know that there are employment options afterwards to at least get some practical experience after you graduate. So now I want to turn it over to my colleague, Mary Hogan, who's the director of our graduate admissions office. Mary?
Thank you so much, Dulce. All right, so we are going to jump in with an overview of UC San Diego. So these are some fun stats that I just want to share with you. I'll go over briefly. And a lot of these have been updated. All of these have been updated for 2022. So recently, we were ranked as the 3rd best public college in the US and the 21st best university in the world, when we have a pretty large student body. So what Dulce was saying earlier about considering, what university may be for you, this would be one of those pieces, right? Like, we operate in a pretty large environment here at UC San Diego with a student body of 42,875 total students. And that was the fall 2021 enrollment. We have 1.54 billion in sponsored research funding. So we are a large research institution with a wide variety of projects going on here at UC San Diego. 16 Nobel laureates. As Dulce was saying, our climate is lovely here. You can see it in the background of Dulce's photo, and the sky behind me in my background is what it looks like most days here, with an average temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius. San Diego is a city. We have 1.4 million people living here, and there are 234,000 plus UC San Diego alumni worldwide, so we're always growing. So here at UC San Diego, we have a wide variety of graduate degrees and programs. This is a brief summary of the opportunities that we have available here. In this particular presentation, I won't be diving into details around the many different concentrations available in these areas. But just to go over them briefly, there's the arts and humanities, there's the School of Biological Sciences, the Biological Data Science Institute, oftentimes known as HDSI here, and they actually have both in-person and fully remote opportunities available, which is new this year. We have the Jacobs School of Engineering, and as you can see, there are many concentrations available in the Jacobs School of Engineering. At the graduate level, opportunities in the health sciences. We have the School of Global Policy and Strategy. There are the physical sciences. We also have the Rady School of Management. So if you are interested in like an MBA or working in business, that might be of interest to you. We also have the Wertheim School of Public Health and Human Longevity Science. So they have a long name, but they have incredible programs. The Scripps Institute of Oceanography. So oftentimes the photos you see of UC San Diego, of that pier out in the ocean, that's where our Scripps Institution of Oceanography is located. And then finally, we have studies in the social sciences. So at this time, I would really love to take some time to go over some best practices when it comes to completing a graduate application here at UC San Diego. So as I was introduced, I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at UCSD, and our team works with a very high number of prospective and current applicants, helping to guide them through the admissions process here at UCSD at the graduate level. I always want to emphasize, and you're going to hear me say this multiple times in my presentation, I always want to emphasize that because our office operates as the central admissions office, different departments do oftentimes and certainly do have different requirements. The ones I'm going to go over today and the tips that I'm going to go over today apply to all, if not 99% of the departments that we have here when it comes to best practices. But it's important to always go onto your program of interest's website to learn more details and about deadlines and specific requirements. So as a prospective UCSD student, you will need the following for a complete application. So you'll need to upload your academic records and/or transcripts. It's important to note that UCSD actually does not require you to request official transcripts until you've been offered admission by UC San Diego and have decided to come. This is for a number of reasons, but mainly we understand, that depending on the institution that an individual may be coming from, it can be somewhat difficult or expensive to get those official transcripts. So when you apply, you just have to upload a copy. You need your statement of purpose. We're going to be going over some best practices and tips around your statement of purpose in the next couple slides. Some departments require examination results from the GRE or GMAT. So again, we'll go over this, but the standardized exams are not required by all programs. So I always recommend that you go onto your program of interest's website and carefully review their admissions criteria. As taking those exams and paying for those exams, is a consideration. And if you don't have to do it, it's definitely good to know that. And then your contact information for your recommenders. So in order to apply, your recommenders don't need to immediately upload your letter of recommendation, but you do need to input their information so that they can receive the link necessary to submit your letter of recommendation. And then for all graduate students here at UC San Diego, applicants must hold at least a bachelor's degree or equivalent from an accredited institution here in the United States or from a recognized university level institution abroad with at least a B average equivalent to 3.0. And the last piece there does not apply, but those are just the basic requirements for graduate admission, but do not guarantee admission. Okay, so some best practices. It's really important to submit all records from institutions you previously attended. A complete application requires students to submit records from all previous institutions, whether you received a degree from them or not. So, you know, if you spent a summer, if you did a summer program, or if you were enrolled at an institution for, say, a semester or a couple years, but did not earn a degree, you still need to disclose your attendance at those institutions and provide academic records. This one might seem somewhat straightforward, but it's important to highlight that when you're uploading your transcripts, make sure that it has all the important information on them that we would need in order to review your candidacy. Make sure that your full name is listed, along with your institution's name, the dates you attended the institution, the grades that you earned, whether or not a degree was conferred. So if you received that degree, it needs to be stated so we can see that, you know, you completed a degree at that institution, the credits you received, and to make sure that there's a grading legend present. This is especially important when we're reviewing transcripts from institutions outside of the United States because our departments and our team are going through and making sure we're converting GPAs, we're making sure that, you know, everything meets our criteria for admission. Okay, so as I said, we're going to go over some best practices when it comes to your statement of purpose. So your statement of purpose is really, I'm going to try to be concise just as I say here, but it's really an opportunity to share with the admissions committee for the program to which you're applying why you are interested in their program in particular. It's really an opportunity and a window for the admissions committee to get to know you. And so being specific around your interest in the program. So, you know, not just saying in general, say you're interested in applying for a master's degree in biochemistry, being specific, why UCSD? Not just your interest in biochemistry. So doing your research, you know, what in particular about UCSD's Masters in Biochem makes it a great fit for you, you know, and being concise. So, you know, remembering that the volume of material and applications that are being received is high here at UC San Diego, and really being clear and concise with your reasoning for, you know, why you're passionate and interested in that particular program and what you most want to share about yourself with the admissions committee, so that they can see and evaluate your potential in completing a graduate program here. I also always recommend, again, that you check your department's webpage for content requirements. Some programs do not have specific items that they want you to address in their in your personal statement. However, others do. And so it's really important to check the individual program's webpage because you want to make sure if they're asking you like, hi, can you please address XYZ items in your personal statement, you want to make sure that you do that to set yourself up for success. And then again, double check those exam requirements. Not all departments require the GRE or GMAT anymore. This especially has been a big shift as we've navigated COVID, and many departments have elected to continue to waive the GRE requirement. Okay. So if you're asked to interview, so first, not all programs interview applicants. I always like to emphasize this. Sometimes we get messages from prospective students or applicants who are nervous that they haven't heard anything about their application and that they haven't been asked to interview. Typically, if an interview is a part of the admissions experience or process, departments will share that on their website. So if you ever, if you see that it is a part of the process, that is something that you may be receiving a request for. But if it's not a part of the process, you won't be receiving an interview request. So if you have been invited to interview, so if your program does interview applicants, this is really your chance to show the committee who you are and that you've done your research, especially on faculty research. So again, that piece that I said about being specific, doing your research on why UCSD. Many of our PhD programs do conduct interviews, and this is a big part of it. So showing, that you've done your research on your end of why UCSD, what going on here is what has attracted you to this program. Be yourself, and again, focus on why that particular program is something that you're feeling passionate about and why you see yourself jumping into the community here and taking part in this research. Ask thoughtful questions about the school and the program. So remember, each institution is very different. A program at UCSD, I'll use another example in computer science, will be vastly different from a computer science program, a graduate computer science program at another institution. So again, do your research and ask thoughtful questions in response to the research that you've done. Know which faculty members with whom you'll be interviewing and take the time to understand their research. And finally, this one, I don't always see as a tip, but I find it really helpful or have found it helpful for me personally, and I've heard similar feedback. Reread your application materials before your interview. This is a really simple way to make sure that you can jog your memory of what you shared in your application. What did you cover in your personal statement? You likely won't be able to see, what your recommenders shared, but your interviewers are going to be asking you questions based off of the information, that you shared with them in your application. And so jogging your memory to remember, okay, what experiences did I highlight? What did I share around why I was passionate about the program that I'm applying to? That's what they're going to be deriving their questions off of. And that's a really great way to just kind of jog your memory and prepare for the interview. Okay, and finally, this is a big one, communicating with your graduate programs. So as you saw in an earlier slide, UCSD is very large and we receive a high volume of inquiries from interested students. And our faculty, especially, while balancing, a myriad of responsibilities, receive a very high volume of email in their inbox. So these tips I hope will be helpful in increasing your chances of standing out in a faculty member's inbox and receiving a response that's helpful to you as well. So do have an informative subject line. If you're reaching out to your program of interest, do not have a subject line that is just like hello. That could be marked as spam, and it also very likely may not be opened when in a very full inbox. Be concise. So share your questions, share the subject matter of your email, but I do not recommend writing a novel in your email. Be concise, be clear. Be formal. So dear Dr. Smith, sincerely your name. Do not address your emails just by saying, hey, or how's it going, or hello, or dear Miss, even. You want to try to do your research to know who you're contacting and to show that you know their name. I've heard feedback from faculty that, you know, if they receive an email that just says, "Dear Sir," and, you know, the individual does not identify as a male, they stop reading right away because they take that as seeing that someone didn't do their research and doesn't even know who they are. And then be specific. So as I said, state your interest in the program clearly. This goes hand in hand. Do not use slang, abbreviations, or emoticons in your email. I love smiley faces and using emoticons in my text messages or in my team chat with my team here at UCSD. But when you're reaching out to a faculty member or to a program of interest, it's just not the time to use them. And then do not send a general email if you're communicating with a professor. So like, "Hello, I like your research. Can I work with you?" Or "Can I participate in XYZ research?" That's not going to get a response. And if it does, the response is not going to be helpful to you because it's likely just going to be saying like, "Can you provide me more information?" So those are some simple do's and don'ts that goes a long way, I promise you. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about financial support. So here at UC San Diego, PhD students have a 5-year funding guarantee and MFA students have a 3-year funding guarantee. However, it's important to note that these are other ways that individuals fund, or these are parts of and other ways that individuals fund their education here at UC San Diego. So on-campus employment, so many of our graduate students hold teaching assistant positions, are tutors, maybe graduate student researchers. There are fellowships available. I do want to highlight that at least the UCSD fellowships, you do not apply to them separately. You are considered for them when you apply for graduate study here at UC San Diego. And I do want to emphasize that the majority of these fellowships are geared towards our PhD applicants, and less so at the master's level. I do like to emphasize that just to be clear, and we have more information on our website around this, but those fellowships do tend to go to those doctoral candidates. And there are university scholarships and grants. Again, those are scholarships. The ones that are UCSD affiliated are ones that you are considered for oftentimes in the application process. And then there are other grants available for students to pursue. And then there are non-campus scholarships, grants, and loans. And an example of that is the Colfaturo.
Okay. And then I'll go ahead and add this part too. So at UC San Diego, another way that some of our graduate students will help fund their either educational costs or living costs would be to work off campus. So as I mentioned earlier, there's quite a few opportunities to get authorization to work in the United States. So an example of that is usually during a student's program of study. So here at UC San Diego, it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 years, depending on the length of your graduate program. So as Mary mentioned, there's the on-campus employment options. Now, many of our students then will do internships during the summer. Our office, the International Students and Programs Office, issues it's called curricular practical training, which is a form of work authorization so students can do the work off campus. Usually it's with a local company, or it might be a company here in the United States. And then of course, post-graduation. So as I mentioned again, you've got the optional practical training, STEM optional practical training, OPT, or academic training. Oftentimes what students will do is anywhere from 3 months before they graduate, they'll then work with our office and to get that authorization. And usually students have a lot of support here on campus. So it's either working with their faculty advisor, working with the graduate coordinator in their department. We've got career services centers that help in terms of doing your resume, practicing for an interview, doing some searches in terms of companies that you can work for. Then of course, our office does the visa and employment authorization part. So you'll find that in most universities, this is pretty standard, but at UC San Diego, this is our process. All right, now The last one I also wanted to share was where are some of our alumni, so the students who graduate from UC San Diego. Here's based on where our students are working when they're on OPT or STEM OPT. Our top employer is UC San Diego. I mean, it's no surprise because many of our doctoral candidates, when they finish, might pursue a postdoc opportunity at UC San Diego, or they might be a researcher here at UC San Diego. But the other companies which are pretty well known, I believe, are Amazon, Google, Qualcomm, and Facebook and Apple. So you'll see it's a lot of it is in the STEM areas. And there's no surprise when you look at the next column of the top 5 industries and where our students are pursuing employment. It's software development, research and postdoctoral research, engineering, data analysis, and of course, technical support and analysis. So I thought that would be a good thing to share just to see where our students are working. Now, I think the next part that you're all excited for a part of this webinar is to meet some of our students. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce to you 2 of our current PhD students. So I will ask them to introduce themselves. We have about 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll make sure to leave time for all of you to ask questions of them. But I asked them to, one, introduce themselves, where's their hometown. They're both from Colombia, so I'm sure they'll have interesting things to share. So hometown, the degree they're pursuing, what year they are in their program. The second question would be, why they chose to study in the United States and why UC San Diego. And then the third one is to share a little bit about how being here has helped in terms of their academic and professional goals. And especially if you're both working on campus, if you can share that with our students as well. And of course, any advice that you might have for applicants. But hopefully, why don't we do introductions first, and then in your introduction, share why you wanted to study in the United States and UC San Diego. So Juan David Hernandez or Juan David Tibocha, who wants to go first?
You can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you should do it in Spanish or.
Bianca, how do you want to?
Whatever you feel more comfortable with. But if you want to switch to Spanish, just because the entire presentation has been in English, that would be great. And then everyone that's listening pueden preguntar sus preguntas en español, ya que Juan David va a hablar en español. Entonces, con mucho gusto, tengan sus preguntas preparadas.
Sí, ok. Bueno, entonces en español. Sí, yo soy de Bogotá, tengo 27 años y estoy, como dicen en el slide, estoy en el programa de doctorado en Economics. Estoy en mi primer año, entonces empecé este verano, como en agosto. Llevo como un par de meses. ¿Por qué estoy acá? Pues la verdad es que siempre quise venir a UCSD, porque siempre me pareció que era una universidad muy fuerte en los temas que me gusta trabajar, los que me proyecto trabajando hacia el futuro. Y sí, o sea, cuando apliqué a muchas universidades, pero digamos que desde que recibí la admisión acá estaba como seguro de que quería venir. ¿Y qué más? Bueno, en general sí, digamos que apliqué tanto a Estados Unidos como a Europa. Algo que me parecía chévere de Estados Unidos es que, digamos, es más cerca, digamos, a mí me gusta mucho sentir que estoy cerca de mi familia, entonces, estando acá, en comparación con estando en Europa, siento que estoy más cerca, tanto geográficamente como en términos de zona horaria, ¿sí? La diferencia es como unas 2, 3 horas. 3 horas es como lo máximo en comparación con Europa, y además de eso también pues está encima lo que ya estaba mencionando, que es una universidad que es muy fuerte en los temas que a mí me gustan, entonces siempre sentí que era como muy buen fit, ¿sí? Y no sé, ¿qué más había que compartir?
Eso es todo Eso estuvo perfecto, Juan David. Muchísimas gracias. Ahora escuchemos un poquito de nuestro otro Juan David. Por favor, cualquier información que te gustaría compartir estudiando en el UC San Diego es totalmente bienvenida.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Juan David Ibocha. Yo también soy de Bogotá. Hice mi pregrado en Ingeniería Química y maestría en Ingeniería Química también en la Nacional. Ahorita estoy en mi cuarto año de Bioinformatics and Systems Biology aquí en UCSD. Y mi área de investigación es el modelamiento de sistemas biológicos. A eso me dedico ahorita. Yo escogí UCSD principalmente porque pues siempre he estado yo interesado en la investigación. Entonces, pues como les dije, empecé mi maestría en la universidad y mientras la estaba haciendo quise hacer un intercambio en alguna parte. Entonces estuve mirando opciones y precisamente aquí en UCSD había un laboratorio que trabajaba justo en lo que yo quería trabajar y en el microorganismo que estábamos trabajando en la universidad. Entonces contacté al profesor y a él le interesó el trabajo y me invitó a hacer un intercambio en ese momento fue 4 meses, 5 meses. Aunque ese primer intercambio fue sin pago, entonces es un golpe. Ya, entonces, luego de que hice ese intercambio, él me ofreció hacer un segundo intercambio ya pago y luego de ese intercambio segundo me invitó a hacer el PhD. Y ya ese PhD me lo ofreció siendo financiado por un grant del Department of Energy y específicamente se llama la SFA. Entonces, y luego aquí tengo otras noticas que quería decir sobre cómo me parece que UC San Diego es muy bueno, es porque en investigación es de lo mejor y específicamente en mi área yo diría que es la mejor del mundo. Me ha dejado desarrollarme bastante libremente como investigador, como ingeniero y me ha dejado explorar mis curiosidades. También hay muchas conferencias, muchos eventos sociales con otras personas del área y de otras áreas afines. Entonces puedes conocer mucha gente y hacer mucho networking. También la universidad le gusta mantenerse bastante cerca de la industria. Entonces puedes buscar internships en esas industrias fácilmente. Aquí hay muchísima industria, específicamente de lo que yo trabajo en biotech, es excelente. Y finalmente, pues mi consejo para los futuros aplicantes es intenten contactar a los profes antes. He visto mucha gente, aquí a mucha gente alrededor mío le ha servido hacer primero intercambios y luego que ya ven el trabajo de uno, lo invitan a uno. Casi uno no tiene ni que decir nada porque en Colombia estamos acostumbrados a un nivel de trabajo muy bueno. Entonces apenas nos ven, es no, quédate, quédate. En esos intercambios intentar publicar y practicar el idioma muy bien con eso. Si pasan, ya cuando tienen el speaking bueno en el puntaje, no les piden un montón de prerequisitos para hacer los TAs y todo. Esos son mis consejos.
Excelente, muchísimas gracias, Juan David. Tenemos una pregunta para ti. Alguien está preguntando cómo te comunicas con los profesores, qué clase de consejos nos puedes dar para hacer ese primer paso de comunicarse con un profesor o profesora.
Pues diría que casi que la única manera en que lo puedes hacer es por correo, pero yo al principio pensaba que los profesores no veían el correo, pero sí lo ven. Lo que pasa es que si uno lo escribe mal, lo que estaban diciendo ahorita lo descartan. Sí he visto que la gran mayoría de los profesores leen los correos, entonces si te dedicas a escribirlo bien, a ser formal y a expresar tus ideas concisamente y lo que quieres hacer y cómo tú crees que puedes congeniar bien con ese laboratorio, te van a responder. O a veces te dicen, me gusta tu trabajo, está chévere, yo personalmente no te puedo pagar o no puedo tenerte porque no hay espacio, pero mi colega de aquí al lado, él sí puede. Lo he visto pasar.
Maravilloso. Y tenemos otra pregunta. ¿Dónde encuentras la información de estos profesores? Yo sé que normalmente en las páginas web de la universidad ahí pueden encontrar información de contacto, pero ¿hay algún paso extra que tuviste para conseguir esta información?
No, nada. Yo lo encontré fue por papers, porque yo no lo encontré por, quiero UCSD, sino quién trabaja en lo que yo trabajo, vi que tenían varias publicaciones, encontré cuál es el autor de correspondencia, que casi siempre es el último de las publicaciones, o a veces dice corresponding author, dos puntos, nombre y email, y ya, mandar el correo a ese correo, o a todos los profesores que veas ahí.
Maravilloso, muchísimas gracias.
Vale.
Bueno, tenemos algunas preguntas por aquí. Si es que tienen preguntas para alguno de los Juan David sobre su experiencia, vayan poniéndolas en el chat, pero mientras tanto vamos a contestar algunas preguntas sobre admisiones. So we're going to switch back to English really quick. I don't know if maybe Dulce or Mary would like to touch base on this question, but they're asking about fees for graduate programs. Like I know you did mention that our PhD programs have specific funding, but is there anything we can share about pricing for master's programs?
So I can pull up the tuition and fees. Let me do that now. I will say one item. So I did highlight, and I do just want to highlight again, as far as the UCSD funding goes, it is less so for master's programs. So it's important to keep that in mind when looking at the tuition and fees. So I'll pull that up just to make sure I get the exact number.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. And of course, just for everyone that's listening, programs have different, different fees. There's different scholarship opportunities depending on the school. Some programs get more funding than others. So it really, really depends on what kind of program you're looking for. So, sometimes some programs are a little bit more affordable than others. It really just depends on your area of interest.
So I'm going to go. Can I put it in the chat? Will everyone see
absolutely.
that?
You can.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Yep. You can put the link in the chat. Everyone will have that link to, do their own research depending on the school that they're interested in. And we can move on to a couple of more questions because they are beginning to ask many, many things. So we have a really interesting question about the length of master's programs. Are there any programs that are less than 2 years, or is the baseline for the master's programs 2 years plus?
There are some that are only 1 year long. And so again, it really depends on your interests. But yes, we have 1 year and 2 year master's programs. Just off the top of my head, there are a couple 1 year programs in the School of Global Policy and GPS. I know there are 1 year master's programs in the social sciences, in the physical sciences. And so it really depends, but yes.
Yes, there is one called computational social science, which is like 1 year.
I'm sorry?
No, there is one called computational social science. I know that one is 1 year. I know someone that.
Perfect. Yes.
For example, yeah.
Also, Bianca, I just wanted to mention, it doesn't look like I can send to the participants. So I'm happy to provide you with that link because we do have a page where we go in detail of like graduate registration fees and then how fees vary based on if it's a self-supporting program or if it's RATI or GPS, like it really depends. So I'll just along.
We're going to send the recording of this anyway, so I can put that link in the follow-up.
Okay, perfect.
We have another question about application deadlines. So can we talk a little bit about application deadlines and how long does it take for UC San Diego to get back to the people that were admitted?
Yeah, so application deadlines where graduate study is different than undergraduate is that there isn't one deadline across the board for graduate study. So it is completely up to, within reason, completely up to the department on when they want their application deadline to be. And I'll also say this goes on the other end of things of when their application opens. Not all of our programs open their application on the exact same day. At this point, I think we have like 99% of our programs for fall 23 available, but the deadlines do range from, gosh, I would say there are some programs that are closing their application at the end of November this year, while some keep them open through the spring, and then even longer. So some of our programs, like the Rady School of Management, some of their programs stay open through July. And so this is again where it's really important to go on to the department's website to see the specific deadline. As far as how long it takes to hear back from a program, it varies. Most of our departments do the majority of their review so overall, deadlines tend to take place in like December and January for many of our programs. Then the programs meet, they go through their admissions process, which is very thorough, and we start to really see a high number of student or admission nominations come into our office in like February, March, April. Like that's really the busiest time when we tend to see most of our notifications going out to our applicants.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And then we have a couple of questions about English scores. This is our most asked questions. So what are the TOEFL or IELTS score requirements? And is there any sort of conditional admission for students that meet requirements but are still admitted? A lot of our students always ask if they can, be admitted and then take an English course before they start their degree, or maybe submit a different score, a better score by the time they have to go to school. What kind of flexibility do you guys have when it comes to language requirement?
Sure. So it's a great question, and I can see why it's a common one. So demonstrating English proficiency can be done in a number of ways when applying to UC San Diego graduate programs. So if you're a non-native English speaker, you may be exempt from the requirement if you've earned a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctoral degree with grades of B average, so a 3.0 average or better, from either an accredited institution in the United States or a university outside of the United States where English was the sole language of instruction, or if there's those are really the two ways to demonstrate proficiency without taking a language proficiency exam. Now, if you don't fall into those two categories, we do accept a number of English proficiency exams. Again, I feel like a broken record, but some departments only accept TOEFL scores, while others accept both TOEFL and IELTS scores. So we strongly encourage applicants to reach out to specific departments just to make sure they're crystal clear on the requirements. Now, this next part is pretty wordy, but so we accept the TOEFL, we accept the IELTS, and as far as the baseline scores that we require for admission, it varies on the type of test that it actually is. So our university-wide minimum for the TOEFL to be considered for graduate admission is 64 for the paper delivered test and 85 for the internet-based test. Some departments and programs might require a higher minimum score. So again, checking with that department is important. And applicants who receive a marginal score, so a score that is less than those benchmarks, but is still nominated for admission. So this would happen, if a department saw that maybe you didn't quite hit that number, but you're a strong applicant and they wish to admit you, that is possible. But in that case, you may be required to pass an English proficiency test upon arrival at UCSD or enroll in an English course until the required proficiency is attained. So that's, we do see applicants in that area where, there might just be additional kind of contingencies necessary in order to make sure that you're ready to thrive here on campus and thrive in your coursework. And then, as I said, the IELTS, so the International English Language Testing System, we also do accept those scores. Not all departments do, but our minimum score is the band score of 7 for this score. And it's the same as it is for TOEFL. If you don't quite hit that number, but you're determined to be a competitive applicant, you may be required to take an English proficiency exam when you get here or take an English course when you get here. So I hope that's helpful information.
Absolutely.
This is all on our website as well.
Yes, yes, I was going to mention that when we talk about academics and universities, you will always hear the word depends, because it absolutely depends on the different school, on the requirements. Like I said before, some schools have more funding than others. Some have different requirements than others. So always look at the school's admissions website. They have the most up-to-date information. And then we have another question. We're going to switch back to Spanish. So this one is actually for Juan David T. Ellos quieren saber un poquito más sobre lo del intercambio que hiciste. La pregunta es, cuando dices que es mejor hacer un intercambio primero, ¿a qué te refieres? ¿Un programa diferente o es una pasantía, internship, que se puede hacer durante la maestría? Entonces, Juan David, si podrías pues compartirnos un poquito de la experiencia o algún consejo para esta persona.
Sí, es buena pregunta. Lo que yo he visto, que digo que ha funcionado mucho, mucha gente, es que especialmente cuando se está apuntando al doctorado, durante la maestría hacer el intercambio. No importa desde qué programa, sino más bien es que ya tienes visto con qué profesor o profesores quieres trabajar. Entonces, haces el intercambio con ese profesor o con esos profesores y ya que te ven, conocen tu cara, ya hasta ellos mismos te van a decir, no, quédate. O cuando les envíes el correo después, quiero aplicar, o ahí mismo les dices, los invitas a un café y les dices, no, yo quiero aplicar, te van a decir, sí, sí, no, está bien, te puedo pagar la mitad, te puedo pagar un cuarto, o a veces pasa, no, pues yo trabajo en esto y mi colega en esto otro, entonces entre los dos te pagamos todo, 75%, entonces ya cuando no va a buscar financiamiento no es tan grave.
Maravilloso, muchísimas gracias, Juan David. Creo que la lección que tenemos con esta experiencia de Juan David es que la mejor manera de hacer esto es hacer relaciones y conexiones con estos profesores de las instituciones, en verdad investigar mucho sobre ellos, no tener miedo de mandarles un correo, obviamente algo muy bien escrito, algo muy puntual, para ver qué clases de puertas se pueden abrir. Okay, so we have one last question. We're going to switch back to English. So we did speak a little bit about different funding opportunities. Mary, maybe we can get just a little bit of a summary from this. I think this is actually going a little bit late, so they might have not heard about any scholarship opportunities besides programs like Colfuturo or loans that they can get here in Colombia.
Absolutely. So there are enough, so as far as scholarship or fellowship opportunities go, there are a number of UCSD opportunities. They're detailed on our website, but what's most important to remember is that you actually don't need to apply for them separately from submitting your application. So for this is only for UCSD, not external fellowships or scholarship or grant opportunities or anything like that. But for those that are UCSD specific, there's nothing additional that you need to fill out as the form of an application aside from your application for consideration for admission to UCSD. And as I said, these fellowships do tend, the bulk of the fellowship awards are for doctoral candidates. So I always like to emphasize that because you know, we understand that the fees to attend graduate school are, of course, an important consideration. And if you are thinking of pursuing a master's degree, just making sure that applicants aren't necessarily like thinking or banking on the fact that they would receive these fellowships to fund their education. And that applies for doctoral students as well. You know, there's a limited number of fellowships, and we receive a high number of applications and high number of very qualified applicants. So I would encourage you to go on our website and take a look at those fellowships and opportunities to see, if you think you may be considered for any of them, but to also really be thinking about external funding opportunities. And then as far as just funding in general, UCSD does have a 5-year funding guarantee for our doctoral candidates and a 3-year funding guarantee for our MFAs.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. Well, it looks like those were all of our questions. Thank you so much to everyone that asked their questions. We will be sending a follow-up with the video recording in a couple of days. We will include Mary and Dulce's contact information. And of course, if both Juan Davids are okay with it, if I get there okay, we can share their contact information as well. Les recuerdo que tenemos un beneficio maravilloso con esta institución, University of California, San Diego, es que se postulan con el programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo. La convocatoria abre el 10 de enero y cierra el 28 de febrero. Si es que están interesados en más información sobre esta financiación, que es hasta $50,000, pueden encontrar la información en colfuturo.org. Hacen clic en programas, luego en programa Crédito Beca, y ahí podrán encontrar toda la información. Nuevamente, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí el día de hoy y nos vemos en el próximo webinar. Dulce, Mary, Juan David H, and Juan David T, thank you so much for being here today. We loved hearing about OPT and what a great school UCSD is. So we hope we can have you again soon, and everyone have a great night. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.